Hello, everyone, and happy Dark Moon in Sagittarius. It is December 19th. This is the last Dark Moon of 2025, so that's pretty exciting. There's some interesting things happening right now on this day. Three-Eye Atlas is the closest it will be to Earth, so that's really fun. That's happening right now. Um, and as far as space terms, like when it went past Mars, it was a lot closer to Mars than it is to us, but this is close it's going to be in our orbit. So feeling some good vibes from Three Eye Atlas. But what we're here to talk about is the dark moon. So as you guys can see, I have this for 7:38 Central Standard Time. And if you guys can look at the chart here, you'll see at the bottom you'll see the moon and the sun. The moon is looks like a crescent moon, and then the sun is that orange circle with a dot. You can see they're both at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. I do just have the moon at 22 minutes and the sun at 24 minutes, but I thought that would be close enough. And what's really interesting about this is that if you follow the sun and moon towards the inner circle, you'll see a bunch of blue lines with triangles on them. And if you follow those up, you'll see a symbol that looks like an anchor, and then you'll see a symbol that looks like a key. And that anchor represents Eris, who is discord, and the key represents Chiron, who is known as the great healer nowadays. And Chiron is a centaur, and Sagittarius is the centaur. And so this was really important to me to point this out because this being the last dark moon in 2025 is a number 9 year, and that is the ending. And it was the year of the snake. And we could say the wood snake, but it was the year of the snake. And so this to me is representing all the things that we're shedding, that we're leaving behind. And to me, what 2025 has represented is the idea that we're leaving behind separation, separation between our masculine and feminine selves. You guys can see if we go back down here, the sun and the moon are directly between Mars and Venus. They're conjunct Mars and Venus. And so to me, that's, signaling that our masculine and feminine are coming back together. And then again, going back to this idea of trining Chiron and Eris. So a trine is 120 degrees. So that's good vibes, if you will. That's a lot of energy flowing directly back and forth. And because the sun and the moon are together, they're conjunct, that's when we say this is the time of the void. This is the time of manifestation, if you will, but it's really a time of rest. It's a time to me, always reflect. We could think about going into a meditation, but it's a time to check in with the self as the self to see where we are. And we are in a time of great change. And this idea that the sun and the moon are trining Chiron and Eris as they are conjunct Mars and Venus really signals that for me. Chiron, I don't know if you guys know the mythology of Chiron. We do talk about Chiron a lot on this channel, mainly because it's one of the things that I think highlights old mythology that we're not going to take into the future with us. And I think there's parts of the story we'll take in with us for sure, but Chiron is a centaur, and he was known as the great healer because he knew all the plants and herbs to heal people. And he died because he made some poison tip spears. And I think it was to give to Hercules on his journey, but I could seriously be making that part up, I think. But anyway, I don't know. I meant to look it up and I forgot. But anyway, he made some poison tip spears, and he had them laying out, and he had a dinner, and he had some more centaurs over, and the centaurs really wanted to drink. And he really didn't want them, he really didn't feel like all that, but he also felt like he needed to be a good host. So he got out some wine. The centaurs started drinking. They got drunk, and someone shot him in the ass with one of those poison darts, and then he died. And the idea was, which is I can just hear an old man saying this, was that he could save everyone else, but he couldn't save himself. So the idea of Chiron was that it was this wound that you carried with you for your entire life that you could never heal. And I just want to say that to me, we've moved out of that. And this idea of the sun and moon, oops, sorry, in Sagittarius trining Chiron is telling me that mythology is healing. And I will say that because they are watching Chiron. At first, they weren't sure if he was an asteroid or a planet. They're not sure. But basically, Chiron right now is developing rings. So Chiron is changing. And I find that so interesting. Chiron is changing. So to me, that's signaling that we can change, we can heal. The fact that Eris has been hand in hand with Chiron for months, right? And Eris brings in that discord. Eris makes sure there is going to be a change. Eris is going to make sure things are just, right? And so she's been sitting there with them. And the sun and the moon are training them, right? They're in this deep conversation with them, and they're saying we are changing. The discord, the uncomfortableness is it's working. It was worth it because we can change, we can heal. And I think what's really interesting about this is the fact that Chiron is growing rings, and to that, that's signaling boundaries. Because when I think of boundaries, I think of Saturn, and Saturn has rings. Um, and if Chiron just would have felt like it was okay to have some boundaries and tell the centaurs, hey guys, we can't drink tonight, because I'm working on some poison arrows over here. Yeah, he went and got shot in the ass. And I feel like one thing that we're leaving behind, especially with this age of Pisces, was the idea that we couldn't have boundaries. There was like just no boundaries. And this is lower Pisces, right? Like, water going everywhere, not knowing when to quit, not seeing the reality, right? Addiction, all these things. That's not having boundaries with the self. Um, so the fact that Chiron is growing rings, it's like Chiron understands the importance of boundaries, and it's okay to have boundaries. And it's okay to tell people no. It's okay to have your own space, right? Again, poison arrows are laying out, man. What the hell? And it's okay to get to this point. Eris was sitting there and we have to see, like, they're in Aries. They're both in Aries, and Aries is the self. So it is this intense change with the self. It is this intense change of, yes, there's healing. Yes, we've been in some discord. But it's working. If you guys aren't thinking, you guys are thinking, is anything happening? Are we actually changing? The answer is yes. And you can look at Aries and see that Chiron and Eris are still there. They are retrograde, but the fact that they're trining our sweet, sweet centaur of Sagittarius, the moon and the sun are conjunct. We're in this deep time of meditation. We're in this deep time of the void. This is where the magic happens, right? Because the idea is we don't actually know how it happens, right? We don't know exactly how Earth was formed. We have ideas how star formed, but we all know that they come from dark matter, right? So we're not 100%, we just know. So take this dark moon to know that you are changing, to know that you are healing, to know the earth is coming into boundaries, with itself and with the other, to know that the masculine and feminine are working together. Eris and Chiron are hand in hand. They are changing. The sun and the moon are conjunct with Venus and Mars. We are coming together. We are shedding that skin of separation of 2025. We are looking forward to 2026. So, this dark moon, we're going out with a bang, if you will. We're moving into Capricorn. As you can see, Mars is already into Capricorn. The sun and the moon are squaring Neptune and Saturn, and they are in Pisces. If you can see, let me see how you could do this. So the squares are red and they look like squares. So if you follow the sun and moon and you go up, you can see Neptune's at 29 degrees, Saturn's at 25 degrees. So they're squaring Neptune and Saturn in Pisces. And to me, Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, right? coming out of the age of Pisces. We're in this age of Aquarius. Saturn and Neptune in Pisces to me represents bringing conscious to the unconscious because Saturn has rings, right? Saturn has boundaries, and it's been sitting in Pisces, putting in boundaries, putting in ways that we can now understand it's okay to set a boundary, right? It is having, Saturn used to rule Aquarius, so we can think of Saturn as science as well, right? In Neptune ruling the ocean, right? Dreams, the unexplainable, right? Esotericism, all that stuff. But they're together. You can see they're only 4 degrees apart, and they're sitting in these degrees of mastery in Pisces. And to me, that is about bringing consciousness, Saturn, into the unconsciousness, which is Pisces. And Saturn borders, it's the 6th planet, so it borders the outer space and then our personal planets. And so Saturn, which used to rule Aquarius and now rules Capricorn, is about bringing what could be into 3D, right? Because Capricorn's an earth sign, like making it work. How do I take these ideas and make them work? And so it's sitting with Pisces again. It also represents the idea of bringing spirituality, because Pisces is spirituality, in making it work, Saturn. And so they're squaring that today. They're squaring, the sun and the moon are squaring Neptune and Saturn. The sun and the moon is also in a quincunx with Uranus, and Uranus is in Taurus, and Taurus is Earth. I'm trying to see where it is. Yeah, Uranus. So if you can follow the sun and the moon, Taurus is at the very top. It's kind of cut off, and you can see Uranus retrograde over there at 28 degrees. In the quincunx energy is often thought of not having a resolution, right? Before that was always like super bad, like, oh no, what do we do? But the idea of, and Uranus now rules Aquarius, but the idea, if we're bringing in new thought to Earth, right? New thought into what was known, right? Because Taurus is fixed Earth. And we're in that quincunx. The idea to me, the sun and the moon there, they don't know just yet. It's still developing. It's okay not to know. It's okay to be like, well, I'm in a change. I'm in a time of change right now. And so if I focus on the fact that I do know I'm healing, I do know I'm changing, I do know I'm working with boundaries, that's going to change the way that you work, quote unquote, with things that you thought were 100% like Taurus. Taurus is work, Taurus is money, Taurus is creativity, Taurus is creation, and Uranus in there. Remember, it's been churning up. And this is its last hurrah, okay, in Taurus before it finally moves into Gemini. But Uranus and Taurus has been turning up all the land so we can plant these new seeds, right? So if you don't know what the new seeds are, if you're coming to the end of the year, and you're not sure what 2026 is going to look like, that's okay, right? That's okay. It's still figuring itself out. It's still getting direction. It's still understanding that the more we heal, the more things change. And we don't have to have the 5-year plan, right? We can tend to the garden that's right here and right now. Because if we're present and we're bringing that unconscious into the consciousness, then we're going to know how to amend the soil because we're paying attention to the self. And we have to remember Sagittarius, it's mutable fire, but it's about seeing how others live and then bringing it to the self. It's about seeing, oh, this works for them. Great. Can that work for me? Or that works for them. Great. It doesn't work for me. That's okay. We're going to keep moving on because it is about the adventure. It is about the philosopher. It is about understanding, again, in this age of Aquarius, that we all can get along, right? And we're in Uranus and Taurus, it's breaking up all that idea, like it had to be this way, nothing else. And it's been doing that for the past 7 years, and this is its final hurrah. So let it do its thing. Don't worry about if you don't have it figured out. Don't worry if you're not sure what to do on this dark moon, because that quincunx can be a point of tension. And my advice would be if you're feeling some tension, then I would just focus on the idea. Because if you go back to Aries, which is the self, and that's where Chiron and Eris are sitting, knowing that things are changing, knowing that things are moving, understanding if you go into that square with um into Pisces with Saturn and Neptune, squares to me are always building blocks. So we're building on how to move forward with the idea of bringing the unconscious into the conscious. Because once we become conscious, then we can change things. That's just kind of how it works. The only other little point I want to talk about is that the sun and the moon are training the midheaven. And that goes back just about being practical. This isn't about a time of forcing things. This is a time of reflection because it is a dark moon. We are with our masculine and feminine. We are with ourselves. We are with our most beloved, which is ourselves. So just have this time of reflection. Have this time to know that things are changing. Have this time to know the uncomfortableness and the discord is working, right? It can work a little faster, but it's working, right? So as we move into the solstice, we're moving into Yule, the winter season here, where we do start to kind of slow down. Just to have some time of reflection. See what you want the next week to be, see what you want the next 3 days to be. It's not about figuring everything out and getting it all up here, right? It is about going back to that heart space. Again, where that quincunx is coming from with Uranus and Taurus. Taurus is ruled by Venus, right? And the sun and the moon are conjunct with Venus. You see her right there. She's at 40 degrees of Sagittarius. She's figuring things out too, right? Mars has already moved into Capricorn. He's getting back into this idea of boundaries, how to take us, again, the unknown into the known, right? But it can become from a place of softness. It doesn't have to come from a place of like, oh, this is it, my way or the highway. Those days are over. That's what we're leaving behind. That's what number 9 was about. That's the skin we're shedding. We're shedding the idea of separation. We're coming back into the idea of wholeness, alignment, working with the planets, working with ourselves, working with nature, right? Coming back into balance. And so the fact that there is that quincunx in um, Taurus, which is Gaia, and Uranus is like, okay, what are we doing? And we're like, we're not sure yet, but we know we're moving in the right direction. Just let it unfold, let it be. Okay, friends, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys have a beautiful dark moon. Again, that means there's no illumination. The sun and the moon are together. Take this time to rest. Take this time to meditate, but or take this time to be quiet. And then when the new moon starts to come and we start to see the illumination, that's when we can start to make sense of what we did today or what we thought about today. But for now, just rest. Okay, friends, I will see you next time. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Stay warm. Actually, it's warming up down here, so just check the weather, I guess. Okay, guys.